6:30, 6:35 p.m. New notice has been posted. Pursuant to open meeting law, any person may make audio or video recording of this public meeting or may transmit the meeting to any media. Attendees are therefore advised that such recordings or transmissions may be made, whether perceived or unperceived by those present, and are deemed acknowledged and permissible. Roll call members present. Ms. Andrews?
Present.
Mrs. Gagliardi?
Here.
Mr. Goff?
Present.
Mr. Machado?
Here.
Mr. Pierce?
Here.
Ms. Vincent?
Present.
And Rick Spencer, myself as chair, is also present. Along with us, our superintendent of schools, Mr. Jeffrey Schoonover, Director of Business and Finance, Mr. Ronald Taro, Director of Curriculum, Ms. Elizabeth Haskell, and Director of Special Education, Ms. Megan Hatch. The next regulars, please join us in the pledge of allegiance.
Allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Thank you. The next regularly scheduled meeting is Wednesday, October 13th, 2021, at 6:30 p.m. here in the Somerset Berkeley Regional High School Library. First up, we have student learning and student teaching and learning. Mr. Schoonover?
Sure. The first item is consider formation of the Grow Up Club. So if we can have Ms. Bergmeyer and our students join us.
You want?
I told them to go over there.
Oh, okay.
Please.
Yeah.
We're working it out.
I was looking.
Hi, so I'm Christina Bergmeyer. I'm a teacher here at the high school. I've been here, this is my 12th year, but I've been teaching for 22 years. And this would be the 5th year that Girl Up has sort of been an informal club. And I just brought some of the club officers. I'd like to introduce themselves.
Hi, my name is Cindy Brain. I'm the co-vice president. My name is Mackenzie. I'm a senior here, and I'm also the co-vice president.
My name is Mia Russ. I'm a senior and I'm a co-president.
I'm Madison Dennis. I'm also a senior, and I'm also the co-president.
I'm Sophia Puccini. I am a senior and I am the head of social media.
Okay, so this summer we were lucky enough that the class of 1975 reached out to us and wanted to give us a donation. So we attended their, their event, and they gave us a check for $200. And when we came back to school, we were looking into the ways to deposit it, and we discovered that you needed to be part of the approved student activities fund. So we had a moment where we put the cart before the horse. Well, the club has been active for 5 years, and we can go over a list of sort of what the club is and what we do in 1 second. We've never really been involved in fundraising, and we certainly never had such a generous donation before. So 5 years ago, Alex Celia, I don't know if any of you remember her, she was involved in theater, also a very talented student and individual. She approached me if I would be interested in being the monitor for the club or the facilitator, and David Lenzinski was the principal at the time, so he agreed to it. I volunteered my time, as did Teresa McGeary. She couldn't be here. And so when we first started off, our first big thing was we decided to do the prom dress drive, which lasted until last year when COVID hit. We weren't able to do it, and now with the restraints of the building and where we had the dresses stored, I'm not sure if we're going to be able to keep that up. For storage sake, but it was something that we were able to help the local communities for at least 2 years, so that was exciting. We've also, last year, do any of you want to talk about some of the stuff we did last year?
Sure, yeah. Last year we did a series of presentations where we each presented on a topic regarding female empowerment. So for example, my presentation was on how modern day capitalism in our American consumer society has led to body image issues in young girls, and I know some other people here have also done presentations.
We also donated to a domestic violence shelter around the holidays. So we adopted a family, and we donated presents to them. I personally bought stuff for I think it was 0 to 6 month size, the baby at the domestic violence shelter, so that was a great experience.
We also read to the children at Little Red, so we all walked over there, and we read books about inspiring women, and we read like little picture books that they would understand. And all their faces kind of lit up when we came there and they all loved us. And I think that would be a great thing that we can incorporate this year again into the club. I just think that we should.
I will say that was definitely true. Like, I was there and it was like nothing, but they were like treated like royalty. It was very adorable. So Girl Up is actually part of the United Nations Foundation, right? So that's where the club name comes from. And that club is based on equality and education for all, right? And it specifically was founded to promote education in third world countries where not everyone has access to education. It's a club that's internationally known, and it is also in all of the 50 states. Here, we try to make the club incredibly inclusive. We actually have male and female members. I know it's called Girl Up, but we try to really let everyone know that it's about equality, education, and empowerment through advocacy. Right? So, I will say just on a personal note, I love this club because I get to work with these kids. If any of you know any of these kids, these are some of the most exceptional kids that we have in high school. So their series where they were presenting, that was all stuff that they just did on their own time. They picked the topics, they did all the research, they presented it, and I walked away like I learned information from them. So I really enjoyed being a part of the club, and we're here today to hopefully get approved so we can cash the check. And we have some ideas what we want to use the money for, but we also want to wait till we can talk to the group as a whole to make a collective decision. Any questions? I know that was a lot of information.
How many members, I know this is the executive board, but do you have an idea how many members you have already?
Yeah, so it fluctuates from year to year. The first year was the highest with about 60 members.
Wow.
This year though I'd say we're in about 20 to 25.
Do you meet typically after school?
We do. We pick usually a day a week or sometimes every other week. During COVID, we were the most active because so many things were shut down for students that we did meet once a week virtually, via Google Classroom. We have a Google Classroom page. But when kids get busy, that's where sometimes we will change it to be every other week or once a month. We can be flexible in that way. Any other questions?
Well, I'll just say, I think it's a great organization. I love to hear what you're doing. I mean, I think that, it's so important that we recognize equality for all. And I say that, and I'll try not to, I'm kind of maybe the senior guy here. But I think about the group that we have of bright, intelligent, and thoughtful women in so many facets of not only this board, this organization, but throughout the country. And I think about, geez, how did they get by 20, 30 years ago without the right minds contributing to the process that we want. So 100% behind what you're going to do and welcome the ideas.
Thank you.
I'd just like to thank you for being great ambassadors for the school. I haven't been to a couple of the girls personally. You have great choices, all of them. So thank you very much. I'm sure all the other school committee members will echo what I'm thrilled that you're starting this.
If there are no further
Can I
questions,
just ask,
what's
what's the context in which you made your presentations?
The presentation for tonight or the
No,
presentation for their...
presentations that you spoke about. Was that done at a club meeting? Was it done
Yeah,
with students?
so last year, the presidents and the seniors that have just graduated, they started as kind of an introductory, the beginning of last year, and they would each pick a topic. They did healthcare for women specifically, and across the world, so in developing countries as opposed to developed countries like America. And then after all of them, the seniors last year, a few of us picked different things, talked about, I talked about mental health and neurodivergence in women, because it's something that's not talked about and is geared towards males typically. So that's what I did my presentation on.
And the presentations were for the club members. So it was when we were meeting, so it was after school, not during class or
Yeah, just to add on, we did it mostly based on current events of what we were seeing in the news, or like I did for Women's Month, I did my own presentation showing, like, because it was Women's Month. So they all just kind of think what was like personal to us.
Yeah, and like the idea is that like you can empower yourself by empowering others and educating others.
Who's invited?
Well, that's what I was wondering.
You're invited if you want to go. We actually did have an outside guest last year. We had a female police officer who came to talk to the students about safety when you go off to college, and that was really, really good as well. So, yeah, but anyone's always welcome.
Even not to speak, I would like the word.
Yeah, wow. Great.
These guys, we need a school committee representative.
You're always volunteering.
Good. You're just so good.
group, but yeah. No, I agree with you.
I had a second question. I realize that storage space here at the high school is very short, but I hate to see the program involving the crown gowns because it really was a worthwhile program. How much storage space do we need?
We were able to use in the past a room upstairs, but now that's being used as a classroom, so it's no longer available. We currently have the dresses in one of the trailers outside, and we have some accessories and such still stored upstairs. If we weren't able, like, we would need, I would say, I mean, Mr. Shuno, you've seen it, it's a lot of dresses.
It is.
Yeah, with a lot of racks, so it is difficult without a space. So we were looking at least to try to donate them to existing organizations, so the dresses would go still to help people in the community. So,
I wonder if there's a way, but a way to use an empty storefront in downtown Somerset or something.
oh yeah.
Well, I was wondering if there was a way to find some offsetting storage that might be donated, or if there are other facilities within the post-school districts, that are in real storage. So I wanted to just check into that.
I mean, we were definitely willing to check into it, and I know that a lot of the members were quite upset when there was the limitation of space.
Spencer, if I could just say one thing, been here for quite a few years. I've approved many clubs, but knowing that I'm about to support this club, especially what's going on in Afghanistan and all those women, all the girls, unfortunately, they're, they've always known that girls had rights, and now it may be taken away from them out of the blue, especially the 15, 16-year-olds. It's very hard. It really bothers me when I see it in the news. It really bothers my heart. But knowing that there's a group like this, Girls Up, that is advocating for them, not only for this country but around the world, I think it's a great organization, and I'm very pleased to support this. Thank you for what you do.
Thank you.
If we haven't convinced you yet. I just wanted to speak about my personal experience. I was part of the middle school Grow Up SMS, and that was a great organization where we would come in, it was an open place for conversation, we even dabbled in politics sometimes, kind of seeing how girls and women were influenced there. I think it's a great club to be a part of. If we can get funding, we can grow our membership and grow our outreach to everybody, so I really hope we can support it.
On a motion to accept the Girl Up Club at Somerset Berkeley Regional High School.
Second.
The motion is second to approve, accept, approve the Girls Up format. All right, question, any further discussion? Hearing none, all in favor, aye?
Aye.
Opposed? Hearing none. Congratulations, thank you for your service.
Thank you so much.
Thank you.
Mrs. Spooner?
Sure.
Little update?
So I did share with school committee members some enrollment numbers, as I like to do each September. So I've given you a breakdown of the enrollment as of this morning by each grade, and then just historically, so you can see how the numbers compare to previous school years. So you see in grade 9, we do have 248 freshmen, And then the breakdown by how many from Berkeley, how many from Somerset, the number of school choice students, and then we do have at least one in each grade level that's in this other category, which I'll explain in a second. So 248 in grade 9, 262 grade 10, 236 juniors, 243 seniors, 16 students in our 18 to 22 program. And you can just, with all of those, you can add up the total number of students from Berkeley, from Somerset. We do have a total enrollment as of this morning of 1,005 students. And those 5 students listed in the other category, typically other is child of an STA member who lives out of state. They can't really qualify as a choice. Sometimes it's a homeless student residing in another town outside of Somerset or Berkeley, but due to a previous residence in one of those towns, still coming to school here. So there are a few reasons why a student may fall into that other category. In addition to that, we have 15 students currently in out-of-district placements. And then you can see over the previous 5 years, and these are all mid-September numbers, our enrollment is consistent with where it was in 2016 and 2017, when it was at 1,002 students. Actually, one of those was on September 14th as well. It was 2016. We saw an increase in enrollment in 2018, and then it's been a little bit higher than what it is this year, but some of those classes were a bit larger.
Do those numbers include the out-of-district, the numbers below on the students?
No, that was just the students
In the building.
in the building. The 9 through 12 and then the 22. Yeah, so just the 1,005 is the number that should be compared to those 5 openings. Enrollment, I just have some information, which is similar to what I shared with the community last, I think on Friday, just to give an update on COVID. We did see a fairly busy first week of school. In fact, it was a busy, really first day or second day of school when we had several cases. But so far, the high school has had 10 positive COVID cases. I'm sorry, 11. 10 of those came in the first 5 days of school, but fortunately only one in the second 5-day span. We did have, and I'm not sure if you looked at the school website, but I've been keeping school nurses for both school districts are updating daily the number of positive cases and any close contacts associated with those positive cases. We're doing that in lieu of sending out letters to families and community each time there is a case. So that is updated regularly. But I think, and I haven't checked it since this afternoon, but earlier today, between the 2 school districts, there were a total of 32 students and 68 close contacts. So we have the 11 from Somerset Berkeley, and I can't remember the exact number of close contacts associated with those. There were some close contacts associated in that first week from the cafeteria. So the high school has since created its alternate cafeteria space as we had last year at the end of the gymnasium. We've also increased the seating. If you were the original round cafeteria tables that were new with this high school, those went to Somerset Middle School a few years ago. We brought a few of those back and increased our outdoor seating for our seniors. So this is a great time to be here for kids to eat outdoors if we can. So we have had many of our seniors doing so, which helps to reduce the numbers in the cafeteria. So between really the 3 locations that we have right now, students are well spread out, and we're seeing fewer close contacts and fewer cases since then. Not that the positive cases were associated or attributed to the school. Let's see. I shared information with you about the test and stay option. I have requested from DESE to get more information on that. I've expressed interest in exploring that a little bit further. If you're not familiar with what that is, If a student is identified as a close contact, but they do not show any symptoms, then our school nurses, or in some cases, we can bring in outside staff that could be paid for by the state, I hope. And we would test the students if they produce a negative test upon entry into the school. This is all with parental consent, so it's not like we're testing any student. Parents have to agree to it. Then the student can remain in school. And we would do that for either 5 or 7 consecutive days until they're out of their close contact window, and then they would resume as normal. But it's just a way of keeping students in school if they are symptomatic. Remote learning, obviously, we were not expecting those cases, particularly on September 1st, right away. And I don't think parents were either. So we had not really discussed at that point what remote learning options would be. So since then, I've worked with the STA, and students will have access to their information, school information assignments through Google Classroom. They will be able to join remotely into their classrooms. A little bit more, I'll say less active than what they were last year, a little bit more passive participation, knowing that 23, 24 students in the classroom are certainly in person, and only one may be online, as opposed to last year when it was maybe 5 in person and 20 were online. But still, it gives the student the opportunity to see what's happening in the classroom, to hear the teachers, hear the discussions, and make those connections to help them with their assignments and with the work that they would have to do. In addition to that, we're looking at using our federal funds to help offer one-to-one tutoring hours or office hours, whatever we want to call it, after school, so that kids can also maintain the connections with their teachers. Or maybe it's not even their particular teachers, maybe there is an algebra teacher who's willing to do this. But we want to make sure the students have those supports outside of school too. Let's see, in addition to that, let's see, MCAS results. I'm actually attending a webinar tomorrow with the state about the upcoming release of MCAS. This is the first time in 2 years we'll have an MCAS release of information. It should be available in the next few weeks. So probably our October meeting will be sharing, Ms. Haskell or I will be sharing some results with you. We have student elections coming up. I believe they're taking place on September 30th, or the week. What day of the week is it? 30th. It's a Thursday. I think they're happening on that day. So at that point, we'll also have a new position that will be on the ballot, and it will be student nominees for students to be on the student advisory board. Per Mass General Law, it has 5 student members elected by their peers, and then 1 member of that 5-member group is the one who is the liaison to the school committees and official member. So those elections will take place at the end of this month. We've had some traffic problems. I'm not sure if you've been caught in those or heard about those, but we are experiencing this in both of our districts. I know Berkeley is experiencing this. Every superintendent I've talked to is experiencing increased traffic problems this year. We don't know if it's a result of parents being concerned about putting their child on the bus and find space, even though the windows are open. Students have to wear masks by federal law. We don't know what's driving it, but it's happening. We also have far more parents who are still working remotely and maybe have the ability to bring their students to school when that didn't exist a couple of years ago. We don't know why, but every school system around is experiencing this, and as a result, it's a little messy in the morning in some of our schools. Officer Roberts here has been working, has been monitoring it and changing the layouts. We might be on our 2nd or 3rd different traffic configuration in the morning at this point. You know, last week was backed up on County past the Rise Cafe before coming into the building. So a new pattern was implemented yesterday here at the high school. So I don't really have much information yet about how that's going, but I'll be able to report that back to you on that at another time. And then just on more of a positive note, student activities are in full swing. We've got athletics happening last week on September 10th on the Friday, where the school celebrated a moment of silence at 8:46 a.m. For 9/11. Our chorus sang the national anthem broadcast across the whole school. And just little things like that. It wasn't singing last year for most of the year in the school, so seeing kids playing sports and hearing our students singing, it's just, it's a step back, a big step back in the right direction. And when visiting classrooms, we just get the sense that things are back to the way they should be. Kids seem very happy to be back, teachers are too. I know I've said that before, but it's just, it's really positive to see the way things are working right now. So, are there any questions?
I have a question, Mr. Chair. On the enrollment numbers, do these include the students who are being homeschooled?
It does not.
The
high school currently has 7 homeschool students, 2 freshmen, 2 sophomores, a junior, and 2 seniors. Which is probably about where it typically is, maybe a couple of students higher. That probably averages about 4 or 5 in a regular year, historically. Ms. Rhodes, you have a question?
Just wanted to comment that I've been to a few of the athletic activities and thrilled to be able to go this year. Nice to see you too the other night. I saw your football game. I went to the volleyball game. I have a goal of trying to make at least one meeting to each team this year. I don't know if I'll get to meet it, but I'd like to meet it. I've been to the school store a couple times too. I would like to see us having something. You don't get cash right now though, right?
So, this is something, it's actually interesting that you say that, and I've mentioned this to Mr. Caro. The one question I have fielded a couple of dozen times, and I know Ms. Puccini back there has heard it far more than I have, can't we have Venmo? You know, or something, so. Venmo.
It's where you transfer money.
We'll talk later.
Right, so it's.
That would be awesome.
And I don't know, so I have asked Mr. Taro to look into that, just to see, electronic payments, is there a way that we can set something up? I know there are so many rules regarding funds for student activities and students, but we also have to change with the times too, and
It goes into an account.
right, it's from a savings account to a saving, from one account to another account directly. So anyway, we're going to look into that. I know Sophia Lucchini has been running the school store, and she's asked me several times. I know she keeps getting asked by other students and parents, why can't we do this?
I remember being at Taunton High School for a meeting, and they have a very impressive school store, so I don't know whether they have that capacity. Maybe we could check with them and see what they do.
They do, so.
I can actually get back to you.
Sorry for looking directly at you.
That's okay, I'd be happy to,
We do have
I know they,
to-
now they can take debit and credit, I'm not sure about that. But I'll find out.
I would love to connect with your business person, so to see how to send it up to.
I will be happy to make
That
that
would be great.
connection.
As Mr. Gall mentioned, I did see you at the football game on Friday night, and another thing, it was, our band was in the, just really right in the student section, playing music the entire time. They did not perform at halftime on the field, but they were there performing for the fans and the players throughout the league. And that was just another really nice thing to hear, to see and to hear. So.
I just have a quick question. You think about the traffic. Do you think there's some reluctance to ride the bus, or do you think it's more convenient because the parents are available?
I don't know. I'm just guessing. I think it's a combination of the two personally, but I don't have any evidence to support it.
I just wanted, I know Dr. Gross was talking, but I just wanted to, speaking as a parent, I wanted to commend her and her entire staff on what a smooth transition this was for entering freshmen. So everything from the rollout of the Chromebooks to the tours with the big buddies to the first day. I know my freshman came home very happy, very confident that he knew where he was supposed to be and what he was supposed to do, and just excited to be back in school. And what I heard from other parents of freshmen was that folks felt that it was well thought out and welcoming. And, I know we were worried about kids coming back in. Freshmen, it's always a transition, right? But we're still in COVID, but post-remote, that it would be even more challenging. So kudos to the entire team for, I think, doing a great transition in for the incoming ninth graders.
Oh, Mr. Machado.
Mr. Skudnov, I just got a couple things based on your report. The first, I think it's a great idea that you and your administration and hopefully both districts have started the process with the Google Classroom, because I think a lot of students really can't afford, let me rephrase that, no student can afford to lose 10 days of staying home without an education. So I commend you and your team for that. You mentioned that other, homeless, it could be possibly homeless. I have learned that the hotel Orbit is, again, housing homeless students. And I was wondering, do you know how many students are coming from that building? No, I'm just wondering. My thing is, I'm just wondering, are we, and I'm not saying,
I think it's about 10.
Yeah.
It could be a little bit more than that at this point.
Okay.
It might be 11, but it is around 10 or 11.
Right. I know in the past we were able to,
I think it's up to about 450.
Yeah, my concern is, in the past, the state has reimbursed us for homeless transportation, and I was wondering if there has been any word that they may be doing that again. So I was just wondering if we could look out, or if it's something that we need to
I'll look into that and get
allow
back to you.
for. Because obviously, homeless child or not, they are students, and I want to make sure that they're getting the education, but I also want to make sure that at the end of the year, we're not finding out that because we have to ship someone or transport a child to Fall River, Taunton, or Swansea, or whatever the case may be, that 50% of transportation that we weren't prepared for is something that we're not going to find out at the end of the year in the red type of thing. So if you could look into that. The other piece, believe it or not, today was the first time this year that I actually dropped off my daughter, and she was basically telling me where to go, because I know there was an email, but I didn't read because I never dropped her off, but she normally walks, but she was running late. And she had me drop off at the gas station, Sunoco, and she just walked in. But my question, I think reading the email, we're trying to leave Luther space, but I just wanted you to know that because everybody's turning in front of the school near the gas station, the traffic was actually blocking Luther because people were trying to make that right-hand turn. So obviously you mentioned it's still going to be something that we're going to look, but the reason why I'm mentioning this is we had the bus survey sent out to all the high school. What were the results of that survey, and did we lose, the parents commit to dropping off their kids and are still having the same number of buses? Because again, I know that K-8 needs the buses, but again, I'm here today as a regional member, but I'm also concerned about us continue to pay for buses that we may not need at the region level and also at the K level. So I was wondering, has anyone dissect those surveys and how many people, because I know I committed to not use, to opting out of the bus, but how many more of us did?
So the other thing, have you, as a parent, completed the registration gateway survey? If you updated
Yes.
that information, there's
Yeah.
also a bus question in there, will your child be taking
Yeah.
AM and PM? Because that's a required process to go through, once all of that information's in, we're gonna have far better data than the survey results, which was not representative of the entire student body. So once all the families have finished that registration gateway, verifying the contact information, answering those other questions, we'll have good data to make that decision. I'll be able to share those results.
Yeah, because I know we've always encouraged students to take the bus, whatever reason, as you mentioned, we don't know, could be, you know, I happen to be one of those that like to spend time with my daughter when I used to take her to school on Fridays or whatever the case may be. But whatever reason it is, if we're not going to utilize, if people aren't utilizing the buses, I don't want to pay for an empty bus. That's been something that's been a sore subject for a very long time. That was it.
Comment on that. I'm a member of the budget subcommittee. I'm not sure who chairs it, but I'm hoping that we'll have a meeting reasonably soon and maybe take a good look at that bus transportation issue. There are competing forces because the regional school district receives transportation reimbursement, whereas K does not. So we have to kind of balance it. I don't think there's much question that we could save money on bus transportation. I see an awful lot of the high school buses leaving with relatively small numbers on them, but how that impacts the K-8 district is an issue that we should at least be sensitive to. But on the other hand, so we have to look at how much we can save versus how much would be offset by a loss of regional transportation aid. But I'm hoping that we will look at that in the fall so that we'll be able to budget based upon what we come up with.
I appreciate that, and that's a good point, but the reason why I'm asking is one of the things that I see still till today as a challenge for parents is the after-school buses. I know we have a couple, one for Somerset and one for Berkeley, and I'm just wondering if we're not utilizing the buses, can we add another bus for both the districts or whatever the case may be and have more of an after-school program where now parents don't feel like they have to come and pick up their child because they're going to be on a long bus run. So those are the reasons. I haven't got to my motive yet, but since you're going to be looking at that, if you could just keep, you know, the budget committee also looking at that piece as well. Thank you, Mr. Chair.
Could I ask just one other question that's sort of related to enrollment? Has Bristol Aggie opened its new buildings, and how much has their enrollment increased? Because I understood that they were looking to ultimately increase their enrollment by 50%.
I understand that they opened, but I don't know what their enrollment numbers are like this year compared to previous years.
I don't know if you have any specific numbers, but
I don't have specific numbers. I have talked to some, old colleagues, and I know that they were trying to double it. I don't know if they've quite reached that, but they, I think maybe a third, and they were hoping to double it. But their new buildings are open, even though they're not completely done with construction.
Moving on. Moving on, Mr. Taro, financial update.
Sure. I did provide a up-to-date FinStat. Not much change as far as the line items after we posted all the approved payrolls, closed out all the encumbrances, purchase orders, and now just doing our end of year closeout. In addition to that, when I reported that out to the committee towards the end of the school year, also reminded you of the loss in revenue that we had to close the gap for that. That was part of the school choice revenue. the little delta between Chapter 70 when we anticipated because of the change after our budget was approved. I don't think that was changed by the legislature sometime in December. So you're closing out the loss in revenue in addition to the positive variance within our operating expenditures. The bottom line is still a positive variance, but it's net of revenue. So you're seeing an operating statement within the Google Drive in addition to your fin staff. I think it was a total of about $100,000 to the good in total. I just thought it was a good opportunity to kind of at least remind the school committee where we're at at the end of the fiscal year as we think about, as Pierre said, going forward with the budget subcommittee, what we do for capital planning, and all the other things we have to kind of figure out what we're going to do with our money and how we manage for next year, in the current fiscal year as well.
I know that, we talked about that and increasing some of the funding for increase going to some of the OPEB.
Yeah, we did talk about whether we're going to fund the OPEB or if we can do any capital improvements, one-time expenditures, so that we're not building a structural deficit in our operating budget. So those are some of the things. Once we complete our overall calculation, that does not take into consideration, as a reminder, the shortfall we had in our food service operating.
So that comes into
That does not take into consideration that gap.
So, and remind me again how much that shortfall
I
was?
think it was about $80,000 that I had reported.
So then we're probably going to end up about level.
If we decide that we want to transfer that money over to cover that food service shortfall. And just as a reminder, this wasn't a distribution site. The KA school was from an SSO distribution center. This wasn't, and so there wasn't as many meals distributed through the region side. And that was one of the reasons why we had a shortfall here.
I was going to say, do you expect with return to normal operations, serving meals to students in this, that we're going to not experience that again?
I anticipate, based on the budget prepared when we did the renewal contract for travel, that based on the revenue coming in for this district and the KA, that we will have a much more favorable year this year. So we could take two different approaches. We can see how this year goes to cover the gap. Any expenditures related to maybe equipment repairs, we can see whether we want to cover it within our current operating budget instead of pushing it through the food service account. So we can kind of, let me get the audit going in the end of year report. There is a plan we have to put in place because I don't think that fund can have a deficit in it. We just have to figure out how we approach that. So there's transferring expenses from the food service account to your operating account is legitimate. It's an acceptable practice and process per DESI's recommendation. So if there's certain things we can transfer over, if we prepared appointment and we did something, I can transfer it over to the building operation account and reduce that deficit a little bit before we wrap up our end of year report to prepare the financial for the auditors.
What's your timeline?
I'm getting close to doing that right now, so I'm completing everything I need to complete for the audit. So probably within the next week or so that I'll have depreciation schedules and all the schedules prepared for the auditors.
Okay. And that issue should be addressed, shouldn't it? I mean, we've got an $88,000 deficit. We're going to decide whether we pay that out of surplus or leave a deficit in the school lunch account with the hope that we'll have an $80,000 profit in 21, 22.
It's a risk. I don't disagree with you because if we go to a complete closure, for whatever the reason may be, if COVID becomes more aggressive and we have to do certain things, then you're absolutely right. We'll be having a different conversation relative to the food service program here.
Well, we should remember this too, because we had a significant discussion when the food service folks were here a couple of meetings ago. But are we back to serving a la carte items that are more profitable and are likely to generate more revenue?
Yes. And we're also.
Because I tried to make a deposit to my school bucks, and it wouldn't take it. Is that open again?
Let me check. It should be open for accepting payments. I'll check
And
that.
I'm not that sophisticated on the computer, but when I got an email from my school bucks, I tried to open an account to put a deposit in there.
You had an existing account, so you just wanted to make a deposit, correct?
I think there's a chance we could make up $88,000. Back where we're going. How does it look the first couple of weeks here? It's a tough question. I understand.
Does it make sense that we get the first month's numbers from Jason and report that at the October meeting?
Yeah, let's get the meal counts because our reimbursement, we have to also see what our reimbursements are. Through the federal government, we're receiving more reimbursement dollars per meal than we would normally under normal circumstances, and that's carried through this new fiscal year. So we'll receive more reimbursement dollars this year if everything goes normal, then we will, without doubt, hit the target.
Finance committee, I think maybe next meeting, if we discuss it, after we get the numbers.
Well, what I was thinking, and telling you this is appropriate, that maybe we try to wait for the budget subcommittee to meet in advance of our next meeting to go through these things and make a recommendation to the full committee. They could have the opportunity to tear kind of tear things apart from that, and make a recommendation on how to move forward. And I think at the same time, if the OPEB group were to meet and have a recommendation of what might be a recommendation to put towards some of the investment money for the that sounds acceptable to folks, and we can have that summary recommendation at the next meeting. Okay.
Can I just ask one other question? Mr. Schoonover, we thought we were kind of shortchanged on the federal funds distribution, because we were just on the borderline. And I know that you indicated, either to me or to the whole committee, that you had spoken to the Commissioner of Education. Is that a dead issue at this point, or is there still, and I had thought about maybe our committee sending a letter to our congressman explaining sort of the unfairness of the kind of an arbitrary formula that provided millions of dollars to certain school districts and then others that were literally a fraction of a point away from the number of special or lower income students that they had, but they got a fraction of the amount. So are all of those funds, because it was part of the hundreds of millions of dollars that the state got.
It was, right.
And so is that money all gone? Is there any point in pursuing that issue at this point?
So the conversation that you referenced was with Bill Bell, who's the, I'm not sure his official title is Associate Commissioner, but he's the head finance person for DESI. And he understood my concerns and said that DESI would consider that in making the ESSER 3 allocations. It didn't seem like it really had an impact because it was based on the formula that DESI announced. That our numbers were right in line with that, which is based on Title I. So these were federal funds. The federal funds by the U.S. Department of Education had to be distributed based on the Title I population. So that's where we had a percentage of our students were just 5% is a key threshold, 5 to 15% of our population, and we were just under 5%, whereas a few years ago we were just over 5%, and just because that dropped, it actually cut our funding in half. So the reduction of just a few students were considered Title I resulted in about a $250,000, $225,000 increase in the funding that we would receive. So my understanding is a sort of dead issue, but I don't think anything, well, I shouldn't say that. DESI was also receiving 10 or 15%, some large number of the total funding that they could use for different purposes. And Bill Bell was telling me, well, maybe that could have been a way that some districts affected, like Somerset Berkeley, might be able to get a little more funding. That has not happened yet. I'm sure that they have a substantial amount of funding that's not coming. That's not coming.
And the fact is just that the K-8 district is above 5%.
Correct.
And the region is just a fraction below
Right.
5%. And so, well, because in most school districts where there's not two separate school districts, you do average it, and it would have come out above 5%. So the fact that we're a regional school district with just the high school, and the fact that there may be factors, we may actually have more than 5% low-income students, but there's maybe when you get to the point of high school age, you're less willing to acknowledge that, you're right.
It's all reported through federal tax forms. There's no self-reporting of anything. It's all based on.
But there may be a chance, and maybe we just need to find out more about what that second go-round or what those supplemental funds be. Maybe it's worth one more attempt to try to get it, and we can find out what, we can find out either through our legislators or how we can address that. It doesn't cost a lot to pen a letter and see if we can advocate on behalf of the district to get that funding. Does it make sense to reach out to our legislators to find that out, or is it through DESI? I don't know. To find out what are the parameters around that supplemental funding and whether or not there are opportunities for that.
It's all through DESI,
Okay.
but state officials certainly have influence as well.
Maybe we could talk about this.
Because I would like to know more. I know that the numbers, even some of the numbers show that it decreases for high school based on elementary. So it's based on federal, income taxes and other things. It just seems odd that that's how it happens. You usually don't, it shouldn't regularly decrease the students get older. You would think it would stay the same or similar.
Families with younger children tend to have less income if there is a stay-at-home parent.
Okay.
So because of that, families with younger children tend to be, more families are below the federal poverty line with younger children than with older children.
That makes sense. Okay, I didn't think that. Thank you.
Mr. Pierce, just want to get out, My School Bucks is active, so if you have an issue.
I haven't checked in the last
Yeah.
week or anything.
But contact me tomorrow, I'll double check if you have problems or not.
That's it? All right, unfinished business. School committee representative for wellness committee, student advisory board, and school council. We had some discussion about this at our last meeting. And we had some people that I think were volunteering for some of these things. And,
I think we had a lot of volunteers, so
A
I'm
lot
not
of
sure how we
volunteers.
want to, I feel like we decided like somebody we could rotate, or one would take one would take another.
Do we need 3 different volunteers? Is that what we're looking for?
It looks like it, so maybe.
So there's a wellness committee, student advisory board, and school council. All of these committees are not going to meet at some point during the day, or just certainly not at 5 o'clock.
Actually had a question about the school council. I think under the statute, the school council is supposed to be elected, and I don't think there's a slot for a school committee member on the school council. Years ago, when I was chair of the committee, I would go to school council meetings occasionally, but I don't think I considered myself a member of the school council, so I certainly it's appropriate to have a school committee member on the wellness and the student advisory board, but I don't think the school council, unless we wanted to designate someone as a representative to go to the meetings, but not actually be part of the school council.
I'm just going to agree with Mr. Pierce, that's correct, that there's not a spot on the school council, school committee, there's parents, students, staff, and the community members.
That is I think the concept is that they're supposed to, one of their responsibilities is to work on policy and come up with ideas to present to the school committee.
Makes sense. So when did the wellness and the student advisory board tend to meet?
So wellness typically has been meeting about 4 o'clock in the afternoons, and that's for the full council. If we're finding that we're having trouble because 4 o'clock is too early for people, we certainly could make the adjustment, and we could certainly make them virtual as opposed to in person. There will be 4 meetings during the course of 4 total, yes. That's for the full council, and any work that we do at the school committee, you'll already be here. And there may be opportunities for you to join the mini teams that we have running with various work that they're doing. Again, that would depend on what the nature of the work is, what the team is, and that sort of thing. So our mini team leaders would coordinate those time slots.
The student advisory board?
It has not existed.
Oh,
That's the one that she's been up.
Yes.
and I'm trying to remember the conversation last time. You were looking for a representative, right, for the wellness committee, correct? Were we fighting over it? What we were doing, I seem to recall, like lots of volunteers.
Well, between the wellness and the student advisory board, because once elected, you still need to have a student representative on the board.
I'd be interested in serving on the wellness committee, if you're looking for someone.
Okay, so the student advisory board, as I was saying earlier this evening, there are 5 elected students. One of those students, the group of 5 then selects one person to be the ex officio member of the school committee with the heads of the meetings. And then that group meets with representatives from the school committee, I think it's every other month.
If we need to, I would do that unless somebody else.
So,
I think the school council, it's not that the person is actually a member of the student advisory board, it's just that the statute says that it's supposed to, I was looking it up here, the school committee is supposed to meet regularly with the student advisory.
all right, we don't need a representative.
Well, I think what Mrs. Andrews had said is that in Taunton, the school committee designates school committee member, one school committee member or a couple of school committee members to meet rather than the entire committee. I don't know.
Chapter 71, 38, yeah.
Ms. Sanders, if you have experience with that, I'm fine with doing that.
I'm fine with you doing it. I would like to.
Yeah, I don't want to move to me.
I did talk a little bit with Dr. Grossman about this and just trying to, we talked a little bit about trying to find times that, because the students who are involved in that are also highly involved in pretty much everything else, right? So probably maybe trying to find time where we could sort of meet them where they're at, so that we're not pulling them from practice or rehearsal or their AP homework or whatever else they're doing. So I think if we could be flexible about time, I think that was maybe sort of the request, so that we can really meet with them.
I have some flexibility, so we can always get back on.
I said, you know, I'm happy to be a backup. Okay.
Okay. All right.
That says you're supposed to meet once a month.
It does.
It is once a month, okay.
I would enjoy it.
You're volunteering for
I'm really happy for you, Julie.
student action group?
Yes, student
Okay.
advisory. So I'll make a motion that we appoint Jennifer Vincent to be the school committee rep for the wellness committee, and that we separate there, and that we appoint Julie Gagliardi to be the school committee rep to the student advisory board.
Second.
Motion second. Any further discussion?
Just, my only question is this something that we actually vote on, or is this something that the chair just automatically appoints like you did with all the other committees?
Great. If you're all in agreement, it gives us even more kudos to do what we need to do.
Put it on the record.
We can defer
Right.
the chairman's appointments, I think we used to do that. I don't know if it's necessary.
So I'm fine with this way. I'll put it this way. If I had to nominate someone, I would nominate myself. All right. Any further questions? All in
There
favor?
was one question I had. Isn't there a requirement from the Department of Agriculture about the food program and having to have an advisory committee set up? I don't know how that relates to the wellness committee. It would seem like they go together very well. I have this recollection that it's even provided for in a contract with the food service provider, I believe, that they'll meet regularly with an advisory committee.
I think that this is part of that
Okay, so
statute,
this
that guideline,
is-
yes.
okay.
So Jason Morency is on the team and is kind of the co-chair of that mini team. And we also, Mr. Taro actually had been part of a conversation with Erin, who is, I believe, Jason's supervisor. And so we are all working together in terms of the nutritional piece and also getting feedback from our students so that we can continue to not only meet their nutritional needs, but also fancy their taste buds.
As much as well.
Yes.
Okay.
All right, so we have a motion, a second on the floor. Any further discussion? All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Thank you. Next up, we have the fall retreat.
So, I had some conversations with Superintendent Schoonover and Chairman Fenstermaker, and so this is the idea that I'd like to propose to the group for an agenda. We tossed around a number of ideas, but in the past we've made these meetings such that we hope that we accomplish something. We learn something, but there is an end result to it. So we thought it might make sense, or the idea is to start off with an update and overview of the vision of the grad trip. This is supposed to be our strategic plan that will lead us for the next 5 years. And then within that discussion can be an overview, but then out of that discussion, we hope to pick 2 or 3 particularly named topics that we will need to discuss more in detail. So this is going to be kind of a roll up your sleeve, meet with administration, figure out what is needed to achieve these benchmarks in a strategic plan. Some of those topics would include SEL, increased funding and programming for social emotional learning for our students, because that was something that came out of those community forums. Related to that, special education, we spent a lot of time. What do we need in our district to support more of our students? Again, we're hoping that this is a conversation that's really dynamic, that we get to talk about what are the expenses related, the staffing related, the pros, the cons, all of that. College and career readiness is another issue that we think, especially if we're talking about early college. What are our obstacles in getting that? We have already 2 school committee members who have students here who I'm sure you want to know, how can we get our students to start taking advantage of this? What are the obstacles we can face? And then lastly, and this came up more as a discussion point from our last meeting, in that whole context, we look at graduation requirements. These are
meaty issues that we don't always have the time to dive into here, can we spend a little bit of time on each of these under the context of how do we use these 4 or 3 issues to advance the vision of the graduate? And so we usually divide up the day, so we might have a break. And then we walk into a conversation really about what does our budget planning look like? Thinking, what do we have in ESSER funds? What do we have in any available surplus? What are we going to look at down the road, potentially with any anticipated savings or anticipated increased costs? That, I thought, is a good opportunity for us to really look at, it isn't just budget committee. All of us can kind of give feedback as to, where these funds are coming from. We think this is a priority, or or we can look ahead and say, we know that we're going to have potentially this savings coming in from more students either graduating out of district placements or coming into the district. How do we use that to even serve more students? So again, I always look at this as a kind of way that we can learn something, but we can dive in a little bit more. And then the last piece of it, and I think I forgot who mentioned it, was the point that we have a lot of new members on this committee. So how do we figure out what our role is in particular? What are our objectives as a school committee in doing that? So I will say, Mr. Pierce, I know you were here. We had Tony Bent the last time. And Mr. Machado, you were part of that thing. I thought he was a phenomenal facilitator. I talked to Mr. Schoonover about potentially having him facilitate the whole thing, but I think he does a great job since he was both the superintendent and a school committee member to figure out, okay, here are the buckets. These are the things, and I think he's pretty dynamic. He can kind of guide the discussion, put things on the board. He's also an educator, and kind of tell us, okay, here are the things that the school committee wants to work on. And typically we end this session with kind of like, here are the 3 major things the school committee wants to work on. I would say, to be fair, over the next 18 months, not over the next year, because we're already kind of into it. And that way it gives us an opportunity to kind of hold ourselves accountable. We'll just be honest, we're all working, but we want to kind of see these are the things we want to work on. And so that is my idea for the flow of the retreat, but before we went in and kind of got speakers, like we were thinking of trying to get speakers that would focus on SEL. What are some innovations in special education programs? I would reach out to you to kind of get maybe either yourself or somebody else to talk about that. College and career readiness, can we talk about what a model program Durfee has? One of the designations for early college in the state. New Bedford just sent in their application, so maybe we could hear what they do, So that's my idea. I'm open to feedback. And I have some potential dates too.
Sounds like it's got it all locked out.
You got this pretty.
We did have discussion at our last meeting about it, so thank you for collecting our thoughts and putting it together.
Just so that there's some flow, like you kind of start here and end up with that.
The vision of the graduate is definitely the key responsibility. They're all our responsibility, but I think that's the key piece, and I think we should spend a good portion on that. And then absolutely, one of the things is always the budget. What are our roles? I always feel like sometimes we are finding out last minute. I think, hey, this is what my expectations are. This is what everyone's expectation are, and then we can try to find a happy medium with everything. And then our objective, for us is always a great thing. It's something that keeps us in line. Like, this is our goal. So.
And we know that things happen, like a pandemic that might take us off that path. But I think to kind of really do a deeper dive into these areas, I thought might be productive for us. So that's a hefty agenda. There's 4 or 5 agenda items in total. We typically will do that on a Saturday. We typically would feed people in attendance. But some dates that I would throw out to all of you would be October 16th. I think Saturdays after Columbus Day. October 16th, October 23rd, November 6th, and November 20th. So we can send that out in a doodle poll and everybody can respond. That might be easier. But I,
Yeah.
oh, okay.
Some have responded.
Some have responded. One of the questions I think, Mr. Bouchard, that you had brought up was, should we invite Kate? It's from both. But, and so I wanted to talk about it in this open session. My thought is the very
Seeing the agenda right now, I would
agenda.
say it doesn't fit.
So, but I think that there'll be an opportunity later on to kind of bring the three school committees together. So I just want to make sure that was okay with everybody.
I would really love to attend this, and I don't know if I made an error, but the 16th and the 23rd, I'm actually out of town.
Okay.
So if there's any way we can avoid that, I would hate to miss this. I would appreciate it, but I'll be out of town both of those weekends. The,
October, right?
yeah, October 16th. Actually, I'm in town, but it's my grandmother-in-law.
If it's a surprise, don't say it.
Don't. But she doesn't listen to this. And George, you're not right about that, and then the following come out.
November 20th sounds really good to me, kind of towards the end of next to Thanksgiving time. I like that idea.
Okay, so I haven't had a chance to respond, but we can absolutely, the 20th, I mean, that was one of the dates that I had that potentially would work.
Yeah, it looked like mostly November is when people were saying they could do it.
Okay. All right, and then I talked to Superintendent Schoonover. We did have, I think, the South School team at the start of the last one. I thought that was really great to have that dialogue. So if there is a way that we can invite the administration and part of that conversation at different parts, you wouldn't have to spend the whole day. But I think that would be really helpful. We do too. Should I set that over to you? Always so, all right, so I'll work on a more detailed draft, like when we might have breaks, and, you know, I'll send that out, and we'll look at it at the next meeting and fine tune it with your report. That's okay. Thank you.
Questions? Thank you. Next up, we're going to other matters, presenting information. Somerset and Berkeley, pay updates. Pay.
I had one I wanted to bring up. Last Thursday we had the storm, or was it Thursday before? I'm losing track of my Thursdays.
That was 2 weeks ago.
So our middle school staff did a phenomenal job, and I just think it should be noted. That building, in my opinion, I'm still impressed you guys get all that water out of there and you were able to open up. It was a unbelievable effort. Mr. Slumo, I actually stopped by because my basement was flooded and took the day off, and after I got mine under control, I went by and saw the staff there. I think even Dr. Camara she had a wet back going.
Everyone,
All
all hands on deck.
Yeah,
Absolutely
it was a great effort, and I think they should all be commended for getting, making sure that their school okay.
I'd just like to echo the superintendent's thoughts on like the return to school. There's a lot of excitement in the air. Teachers are happy, students are happy. We've had our curriculum. We had a curriculum night last week for the middle school. We'll have our elementary one this week. We're also starting back our middle school social events, after school outdoors. So we're really excited about that. We do our website now. We have a dashboard, a data dashboard on the COVID numbers, not just for the community, but for the schools as well. So if anyone's looking for that information, you can go right on the website and get it, which is great. We did apply for and are participating in the Test and Stay program that you were speaking about earlier. We're still waiting for all the kids to arrive. But the families are excited about that. There will be a consent form for families to fill out, and it will allow students to stay if they were deemed a close contact for someone who had tested positive, if they test positive themselves. So that'll help keep more students in school, which is great. And those are our updates.
So topics not anticipated by the chair 48 hours in advance of the meeting. I don't have anything. Action items for future meetings, we have, as we talked about tonight, the budget and OPEB groups meetings, come up with recommendations for the budget surplus and any other liabilities we may have. Yes.
Are you done? I'm sorry. I'll be back.
Excuse me?
I'll wait till you're done, otherwise. I thought you were moving on. Are you still on future?
Action items for future meetings. Yeah.
Because I want, Mr. Pierce brought up at a policy meeting, agency to rent the building out. And I'd like to see that in the future agenda for our meeting.
Okay.
I didn't mean to interrupt you, I apologize.
Okay. Well, that's what I said, we just try and keep us on target, you know? So that's piece, and then we do have, we'll have an upgrade in the retreat. And I think what also will be happening is, will not be for our meetings, but the regional evaluation for cooperation and potential expansion of regionalization. The report should be complete shortly, and rather than go through that twice in municipally, I think what we'd be doing is having that go to the full regionalization committee as kind of the final document on what to be done in that, rather than have us go through it all and all the other groups doing that. So I think that should be coming out shortly.
And that might be an opportunity to get the three committees together as well.
Right, right. So that, and I think that's all that I was showing here. Is there anything upcoming that someone had that I didn't know?
I mentioned previously the school presentation of the school improvement plan. So I was assuming that we had Mark Abraham's report, since based on the warrant that just went out, we're paying for it. So
They completed, I haven't looked at it yet, because I was part of the application process, so all I can read. He sent out an email saying we completed it, we'd like you to go over certain things, because we want to make sure that they touch on them, and then they're going to finalize it. So it's, I just have to mention it's still like that. So, yeah, we should.
Mr. Fenster, can we revert back to number 2? Topics not anticipated by the chair.
Yeah.
I do have a comment, a topic actually, and it's one that angers me, so I apologize. But I would really, Friday, I received a call from a parent, and this is a K-8 issue, but I think because Mrs. Ashton is here, the superintendent, and we do have a joint agreement on the teacher's contract, but the issue was that parents are being told by substitute nurses that they don't have access to students' records, which to me is very concerning, and to find out that it's probably not true, especially maybe substitutes that are not part of our own staff, but when a student, one of our in-district nurses are covering another building. And then talking to this parent, I also learned that there have been parents called in to administer insulin on some students because nurses are not familiar with the student or something like that. That really concerns me. It angers me because if I had a child who had diabetes 1, and my child needed insulin and I work in Boston and I can't get here on time to administer the dose, what am I, having an ambulance come in and bringing her to the hospital? And the reason why I'm bringing this is because I think we really need to do an evaluation on our nursing program. And I also feel that people are failing their requirements as healthcare providers. And I'm actually asking Mrs. Ashton and the superintendent to reach out to the state health board and come do an investigation. Because this is putting students' lives in danger, possibility. And it's unacceptable. And I do believe that people need to be held accountable if they don't want to do their job. So I don't know what the process is getting the state involved, but I really want the state health board to come in here and looking at our practices. Is our records not being shared between school nurses or whatever the case may be? This is not a call that I ever want to receive again about a parent being told that I can't help your child because I can't access their records. It fathers me, it should upset every single one of you, because if it was your child that needed a dose or anything, so I don't know what the steps are, if it's something that I have to be a whistleblower and call the state myself, or if the school department will do it, but I really do feel like the state needs to come in and really look at our process, because I feel that if I ever get a call like this, I feel I couldn't be more embarrassed as a school committee member to receive such a call. And I know the superintendent also spoke to the other parent. So I'm just doing this publicly because I think it's necessary.
Thank you for sharing your experience, Mr. Machado. I'm not sure if something has already been done in regards to an internal, investigation. I'm not sure, is that regular practice, like we would go to the state and ask them to investigate something, or is this something we do internally first? That's my question. If there's concerns of this matter, is it an internal conversation first?
In this incident, as upsetting as it is, I just want to, this happened at the K level, but you want to make sure it's
I want
not
to make
happening
sure
anywhere.
it's the whole, I represent both districts, and I'll be having the same conversation at the next school committee meeting. We share nurses. If one of our schools need a nurse and we send a high school nurse down there, or vice versa, I want to make sure that a standard of practice is done. This not knowing how to read a student chart is unacceptable to me.
I think
It's extremely unacceptable to me, because maybe we have the wrong people in our staff, because I know if I go to the hospital right now, there are people who are not covering the original floor that they're supposed to, but they're reading a chart. Student lives is nothing to play around with.
I think that at the very least, to start off with, I think you're bringing this to our attention, which I think is important to the public attention. I think we have to give an opportunity for internally there to some assessment to follow up with it and give a report to us. And then, as you said, we don't know what the next step is. How do you estimate here? But I think, I want to, before we bump it up, I'd like to hear, this is the first time it's brought up in a meeting. I'd like to give an opportunity to the administration to find out what is done, and that they know, whether their current protocols are, what, without divulging too much information, where the specific information on people, but where things might fall through, and then I think we need to kind of figure out what the next steps are.
And you know what's sad? The person who brought this to my attention is a healthcare provider. He's a healthcare provider. That's the person that brought it to my attention and said, this is ludicrous. This is extremely ludicrous. A healthcare provider is saying that what he is hearing and experiencing is totally against every code of being a healthcare provider. So I would like him to be brought in, and actually speaking to this internal, if we do an internal investigation, whatever one it is, I want an investigation done. Because if not, I think, like I said, I'll be more than happy to reach out to the state licensing board myself, because I feel like as a healthcare provider, just like any one of us in here, if someone was in need of any type of health care, we would provide to the best of our capabilities. So I will wait for the action for either we can have the superintendent, do an investigation himself, or we can bring an outside firm, I don't care, but I do want to see what exactly has happened, how often does this happen in all of our schools.
Okay.
Can I just ask, I know that we designated a nurse to some oversight capacity. Does that nurse have oversight over the actions of nurses at both the regional level and the K level?
Yes.
So has this been brought to that person's attention for
Yes.
review and investigation? So,
Mr. Schoonover, what is our process for medical records? So we have a physical document, we have electronic documents?
Both.
Is it accessible from one school to another?
About 90, according to our nurse leader, about 90% of the records are in paper form. So there's no reason why for almost every student that a substitute nurse, whether they are an employee of one of our districts who's going over to another school, or whether it's a substitute nurse coming from the outside, wouldn't have access to those records. Electronic records, I have to find out exactly how they have that, what access they have when they are in a building that's not assigned to them.
Thank you.
And it's just not even so much the records, it's our nurses trained to give insulin. A parent should not have to come in. That's one of the reasons why we have a nurse at every building. That is one of the reasons, because if not, we are not required to have a nurse in every building. But this is the reason why I've been always supporting of nurses. So, but I'm more than willing to play a very, I'm going to give I hate to say this, and this is not a threat, but I have to give only a very small window because I don't know when this is going to happen again. It can't be a long, I can't be waiting for an investigation in March of our coming year.
Okay, thank you, Mr. Chair. So I think that covers the action items. And then you had approval of minutes for prior meetings, which are in your packages. One for the joint open session of August 25th. One for the joint session of August 25th. And a third for the open session minutes of August 25th. So,
could I just ask a question on the minutes of August 25th, the open session minutes of August 25th, on the second page, action items. It says, Mr. Machado suggested that graduation requirements be handled by the policy subcommittee first. And I, as the chairman of the policy subcommittee, I just like, it doesn't say the matter was referred to the policy subcommittee for a recommendation. So I'm not suggesting that it doesn't say what Mr. Machado said, but I'm wondering, has this matter been referred to the policy subcommittee or not? That's my question.
Graduation requirements, right?
Yes.
That's why I put it, because I thought that it would be a larger discussion related to the vision of the graduates, so that's why I put it on the retreat agenda.
Okay,
So
so
if the committee's
I-
willing to wait, that
I'm not suggesting that we should preempt that at the policy subcommittee meeting. I just wanted clear guidance. So if we agree that we're deferring it to the retreat,
if that's okay.
that's fine. Okay.
Thanks, Commissioner. On the open session meetings, under the building inspection, I recall us having a fairly lengthy conversation on the floor, the science lab area upstairs.
Okay.
It's not noted in here anywhere.
And that was on the
Open session.
joint open session, no, the open session of 825, which is the weekend.
I couldn't hear what Mr. Ross said.
He said there was lengthy discussion on the tiles, although it's mentioned, I think it was just that the maintenance capital planning and security subcommittee is working to get issues with the tiles.
You mentioned the tiles, but yeah, I didn't see any of the discussion.
You need more detail than what's in the minute?
I'd like to see a little bit more, yeah, I think we were all in agreement that it was the one thing I noted on there, besides that, the building was in excellent shape.
I can make a motion to amend the open session meeting minutes for the regional school committee to include a second sentence prior to the last sentence. The committee discussed in detail a couple of issues, including the tiles and the science.
Second.
Move for second, the minutes as stated, any further discussion? Hearing none, all in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? None.
Just a quick comment. I approve all the minutes, but even though I wasn't at one of those during the walkthrough, but I do accept them to be not correct.
So do we, I'll make a motion to accept the joint open session minutes of August 25th and the joint executive session minutes of August 25th as presented.
So moved. Second.
Motion second on the minutes of the open session and executive session of 8:25. Those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? None. Thank you.
So did we vote on the open session minutes or simply on the amendment?
On the amended.
On the
Voted
amended.
to amend it. So we're
Okay.
gonna go back. So, okay.
Move to approve the amended minutes.
All right, I'll make a motion to remove the amended minutes.
Second.
Okay, this is on the amendment to the minutes,
To approve the amended minutes.
approve the amended minutes. Any discussion? All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? None. Thank you. Done with that? Public input, this time, is there anyone in the public would like to address the board?
Hello again. My name is Sophia Puccini. I'm a senior at SPRHS.
Could you speak up a little more?
I just wanted to bring it up again because it's a topic near and dear to my heart. Money for the school. I would like to look into other options, whether it be through the My School Bucks or Venmo or Square or Cash App in a way for the school store, because I have had to turn down many sales in the past 2 weeks to get money for the school. And being the DECA president, it's really important that we try to sell merchandise because we just ordered a whole new bunch of stuff. And I'd really love to sell that merchandise, and the only way to do that is through other forms of payment. So, thank you.
Thank you.
Was that about being able to take credit cards?
Mhm.
Or you were just saying? Because we did investigate that, and our Director of Business and Finance, I think prior to this battle, looked into that, and for some reason we couldn't do it, and I'm not sure why, but
There was a setup in the school store when I first came. It wasn't being utilized, and the company disconnected because we didn't have transactions. So we'd have to enter into a new merchant agreement. We'd have to look into a little bit deeper. So I want to see what other school districts are doing before I start going down paths I can't do. My school bucks may be an option because we already have been using for other store activities like AP testing and other collect fees other ways. So that may be an option, easier to implement, but again, let me do a little bit more research on this. I know it's important to them to get this up and running, and it's on my to-do list.
Thank you. I will get you those names and numbers in the morning.
And Sophia, before, if I could just ask you a question.
Yeah.
The students' use of something like Venmo, how pervasive is that among high school students? Is that,
Oh, it's used everywhere. Basically, if somebody wants to go pick up Dunkin' Donuts down the street, they'll just Venmo them for a coffee. I'm paid in babysitting with Venmo for a lot of the people I babysit for. It's basically become the new cash. It's online, everything's online now, so, yeah.
And there's now, you can do a Venmo business account. So
Yes.
That with student activity account, I know that might be an issue, but you can use, I know there's a business version of it, so. The kids are cashless. Right?
Yes, so very much so.
Yes.
thank you.
No problem.
Okay, thank you. Executive session pursuant to Mass General Laws, Chapter 38, Sections 21A, 2, to conduct a strategy session in preparation for negotiations with non-union personnel or conduct collective bargaining sessions or contract negotiations with non-union personnel. The chair so declares. Jeffrey Spooner, Superintendent of Personnel, pursuant to Mass General Laws, Chapter 38, Section 21A3, to conduct strategy with respect to collective bargaining litigation. If an open meeting may have a detrimental effect on the bargaining or litigation position of the public body, and the chair so declares. Collective bargaining, American Federation of State, County, and Municipal Employees, Cafeteria, Custodian, and Paraprofessional units. And litigation, LH Realty Asbestos Contamination Material and Solid Waste Removal from former Somerset High School. We will have a reopen after the executive session. Go through open session.
So moved. Second?
Motion is second, all in favor? Aye. Opposed? Hearing none. Thank you.
Don't have to take the roll call vote to enter the session.
All right, so roll call. Please. Take executive session. Mr. Pierce?
Aye.
Gabby Adams?
Aye.
Ms. Andrews?
Aye.
Ms. Vincent?
She's stepped away from it.
Stepped away. Ms. Machado?
Aye.
Mr. Goff?
Aye.
Thank you.
Mrs. Vincent, just say aye.
Just say aye.
Yeah.
What am I saying, right? Aye.
Take
Oh, right.
take my session.
Aye.
5 seconds.
5 seconds. 5 seconds.
Session at 9:03 p.m. We have one item of business here, engagement with special legal counsel litigation. I believe that Mr. Machado has a motion he'd like to make.
Mr. President, I'd like to make a motion for the school committee to engage specialized legal counsel for litigation and to authorize Mr. Pierce and the administration to conduct such engagement.
A second?
Motion is second. Any further discussion? Hearing none. Mr. Goff?
Aye.
Ms. Machado?
Aye.
Aye.
Ms. Andrews?
Aye.
Mrs. Adriani?
Aye.
Mr. Pierce? Aye. Mr. Pierce, aye as well. Okay. Having no other business, I'd entertain a motion to adjourn.
So moved.
Second?
Motion is second. Any further discussion? Hearing none. All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye.